Today, I'm going to show you how to install foot braces without drilling holes in the hull. But first, let me tell you why I love sanding. Sanding epoxy on a kayak is more than a step in construction. It's a quiet act of reflection. What begins as a practical task becomes a meditation on patience, imperfection, and transformation. Epoxy, once cured, is protective but rough, obscuring the wood's grain beneath a glossy, uneven surface. Sanding is a process of revealing, of refining the material, not to erase its essence, but to let it shine through. Each pass of the sandpaper becomes a dialogue. How can I help you become what you truly are? This act requires patience. Rushing risks damage. Care is essential. It becomes a lesson in discipline and humility, reminding us that the true beauty often lies in the invisible work. The hours of quiet effort no one sees. The smoother the finish, the more it reflects the craftsman's willingness to respect the process. Sanding is also about abrasion. Through friction, we remove imperfections. In this, it mirrors life. We grow through the resistance, becoming smoother, wiser, more refined with time and effort. And yet, we must also know when to stop. Perfection is not endless polishing, but understanding when something is ready. This acceptance of limits, of sufficiency, is the final quiet wisdom. So I'm obviously starting with the bottom of the hull. Now, ideally, what one should do is to hand sand the boat, and to do that with 80 grit. Now, it comes off pretty quickly. Now, why would you hand sand? You would hand sand because you don't want to go through into the fiberglass. You just want to sand the resin. Now, I'm in pretty good shape here in that I have 3 fill coats of resin on the kayak here. Now, I would tell you to hand sand, but I also know you probably won't. You'll want to use one of these, an orbital sander. And an orbital sander works great. Now, if you haven't had much experience with one, definitely hand sand. Otherwise, the trick to an orbital sander is to let the sander do the work, not bearing down on the toe of it like this, but to let the flatness of the sander do the work, moving back and forth, not staying in one place too long. Now, the other thing that I want to do is any edges like this, where I would have the possibility of burning through the resin into the fiberglass, I'm going to leave that and leave. So you'll see after I get this sanded that there'll be a shiny stripe on the chimes and on the keel and on the shear. Those I definitely need to hand sand so that I know when I'm going to get close to going through any fabric and basically examining it very carefully as I do that, which we'll see in a minute. So, if you have had experience with an orbital palm sander like this, great. But just know that you need to let the machine do the work. Don't bear down on it and force it to do more work than it wants to. And on this case, I've also put a nice fresh piece of 80 grit sandpaper on there to do it. And of course, this has a very good filtration system, but you should also make sure you wear a mask. Getting down take my mask off here. You can hear me. So getting down here where we're at the aft end of the kayak. Now I know that the fabric was wrapped over here a couple of times. So I have at least 2 layers of fiberglass right in here. So if I nick it a little bit, it won't hurt very much. Certainly I don't want to at all. It looks like I have plenty of resin on there, but these kind of areas is where it can get really tricky using a mechanical sander. We'll see how we do in getting this area here sanded down. Well, it looks like we did pretty good. Now you'll notice when I was doing it, I would wipe away the dust, and by doing that, I can tell if I'm hitting any of the weave at all. Unfortunately, I have not hit any of it. So that's all looking pretty good. Now, I'm going to go over this again with a hand sanding, so any tiny little orbital marks in there will come out. I've got the bottom pretty well sanded, but you can see what I was talking about earlier where these shiny spots are here at the chine and at the keel. So that's where you want to use hand sanding, and that you can basically go over, won't take very much because it is that lump in there. You can see I have resorted to sanding by hand. Now the reason being is I started off using the orbital sander, and on some flat shapes like this works great, which of course the hull is basically flat shapes. However, with the curved, the disc couldn't lay flat, and also when it hit the join here between the side panel and the top deck, it burned through the epoxy. Now let me show you what happened here. So here you can see that this is the fabric showing through right here. And it goes all the way up into here. Now, I did not sand so far that it damaged the fibers. I just hit the top of it. So I'm going to put another felt coat over the entire deck to solve this issue here, because it really does need some resin on top of there. Just putting varnish on there will not do it. So by using the hand sanding, I'm able to control really what happens and where if I'm going through it too fast, I can really keep my eye on it. Now that the sanding of the hull is complete, I'm going to turn my attention to attaching the foot braces in the kayak. Now these are the foot braces that come with the kit, and the way that they are designed to be attached to the hull is to drill a hole through the hull, and you would take these stainless steel screws and screw this through and into the hole that is provided here in the foot brace. Now, first of all, you would not do this until you had the boat completely finished with varnish and everything, and that's the way that they would be attached. I'm going to use a slightly different method, and this is a part of a kit that CLC sells, and it is a foot brace attachment kit. And the way this works is that this will be on the inside of the hull, epoxied and fiberglassed in, and that then goes through this hole and a nut will go on it. So the benefit to this is there isn't any holes on the outside of your kayak. So the first thing I need to do is to enlarge those holes so that this 1/4 inch by 20 thread bolt will fit through there. So in order to find the location of where these mounters need to go, the instructions say to come down 3 inches from the shear, the inside of the shear, down 3 inches, and I've drawn a line there as you can see. Now to determine how far back it goes, the best way to do that is to sit in the kayak and figure out where your feet end up. And I've done that, and so I have figured out that the first stud needs to go right here where I've made that crosshatch. So you can see that I have mounted them into this wooden stick, and so this is how I will locate that on there. So what I'm going to do is to just epoxy this stud in, and once that's set, then I will be able to use put some epoxy on this end and get it glued in by using that the spacer bar that I have created. Well, it's been 24 hours since I put the epoxy in there. You notice that I used Peel Ply, which is a epoxy release film. And let me show you how that works. So the beauty of this Peel Ply is that it levels out the epoxy quite nicely. So all we need to do is to grab a hold of it here and pull it off. Now what's nice about that is it leaves a little texture in there, but it's very smooth. Now you can imagine if I hadn't put that on here, especially right around the bolt head here, it'd be very difficult to sand that and get it smooth. But as it is, that it's very easy to just go through with a couple of little swipes and sand it down. So that's actually quite smooth. It doesn't look like it, but it is smooth to the touch. So I'll be able to sand all around that and clean those up. So go ahead and pull this other one off back here. There we go. So now what will happen is I can take the foot peg here. I've still got this tape on there, which I'm going to leave on until I get it all sanded and so forth and painted. But it will go on here just like that. I'm not going to push it all the way down, but you can see that that's how it will sit in there. So I'm going to get the foot brace anchors over here on the starboard side, and then in the next episode I'm going to show you a very special way to attach deck lines to your kayak. And a deck line are these bungee cords that cross right here on the foredeck. So in addition to that, we will get a final fill coat on the deck, and we're very close to getting some paint and varnish on the kayak. So as always, thanks for watching, and remember, if you're going to make it beautiful.